Congressman Randy Forbes. He's a Republican from the state of Virginia. Nice to see you, Congressman. I've been following you on Twitter, and you just tweeted that we must stop the sequestration from taking effect. And I tweeted back to you, how? Like, walk me through. We're talking about hours from now. Is there realistically any kind of sense that there's something that can be done now that would stop it from taking effect?
Well, Soledad, we can always mitigate it, and we can mitigate it in quite an important fashion. Your reporter just mentioned that the House had gone home and the Senate had gone home, but members of the Armed Services Committee haven't. We're still here in Washington. I encouraged our subcommittee chairman to stay here and to make sure we're continuing to work. We have a bill that would stop sequestration, for example, from applying to defense. We think that as early as next week we'll have a continuing resolution that'll have anomalies that'll mitigate a lot of the things that are in sequestration. But Soledad, there's just way too much bravado up here, too much from the White House, too much from Congress. We've got to calm people down and have them start talking to each other instead of at each other. That's a challenge, but we're going to stay here and try to do it.
Gosh, I would hope so. All right, state of Virginia is going to be one of the hardest hits when they show the maps of job losses. You know, your state does not look particularly good. Over 200,000 potentially would be affected. And here are specifically some of the things that could happen. 90,000 civilian Department of Defense employees furloughed. 3,500 fewer kids would be able to receive vaccines. $1,215,000 lost for meals for seniors. So the White House says it's going to happen. Do you have a sense of how soon those specific things? I mean, are we talking tomorrow? Are we talking 6 months in? What does that look like for your state?
Soledad, a lot of that will be up to the president. As you know, we're not just talking about those cuts coming from sequestration. It's because we've placed most of these cuts on national defense, and the administration has cut over $587 billion out of defense already in the last several years. Sequestration on top of that will be very, very damning for the economy, but also for national defense for the country. And it's important to remember also, Soledad, when you look at this, even with these cuts, you're talking about the president still having about $15 billion more to spend this year than he had last year. If this is going to cripple the country, we need to step back and say, why weren't we planning a little bit better for this, and why didn't we do some of this planning throughout the last year?
I know you like to blame the president. I've heard you say the president a lot, and I get that. But when you look at who voted for the sequester, you were very strongly against the sequester, but it was 174 Republicans in the House who voted for the sequester, 95 Democrats. So the number of Republicans, your colleagues on your side of the aisle, who supported this. Did you know it was going to come to this? I mean, all those, that time ago when the vote was taking place, did you sort of see this playing out this way?
Well, Soledad, first of all, I haven't blamed just the president. I blamed anybody that voted for this, and I've actually talked to you before last year. As you remember, I led a campaign across the country called Defending Our Defenders to go across the country and tell people a year ago and throughout last year that we were going to be right where we are today. I voted against it. I fought against sequestration. I thought it was bad when the president proposed it. I think it's terrible that we've allowed it to get to this point, because not only when we see these cuts from an economic point of view, but Soledad, we've really talked about the huge impact to national security that this sequestration is going to have on the country. That's why I think we've got to continue to fight to see what we can do to either get rid of it or mitigate it, and we need to continue doing that starting today, not waiting 6 months from now.
Yeah, well, 17 hours if you're going to start today. That's all you're pretty much having the rest of the day. Congressman Randy Forbes, always nice to see you. He's a Republican from the state of Virginia. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Still ahead this